So I believe everybody can see me. And okay, cool. So good morning, everyone. My name is Prajawal Bhosale, and I'm a casual academic helping in SUST 1001, which is Introduction to Sustainability at the School of Geoscience. And I really like to upfront thank Professor Phil McManus and Professor Maria Iskova, because they've been pillars of my presentation today. And we love to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and pay respect to the past, present, and emerging leaders. So just a quick show of hands, we all know that feeling when marking an assignment, you can tell that the student has to forcefully complete that assignment just because it's an assignment. Maybe a quick show of hands? Yeah, we've all been to that experience. And today is about changing that. We all know that real stakes and real audiences can make assessments really enjoyable and meaningful in the age of generation of AI. So disengagement is measurable in Australian higher education system, and it predates the Gen AI conversation. Over 60.2% of Australian graduates rate their peer engagement with the study positively, still shy of a majority. And over 12% of first-year dropouts never make it to the second year of uni. And the educational experience satisfaction has decreased compared to 2022. But this engagement isn't a laziness problem. It's more like a rational response to assessments that reward knowing things rather than applying them to the real world. So now add an AI layer on top of that. Over half of Australian tertiary assignments scanned by Turnitin from the period of 2025 to 2026 showed that there was 80% of AI-generated content in 10% of all the assignments. And today, over 80% of students in Australia use generative AI for their studies, and this number is going to go increasing. And this isn't unique for just Australia. We can see that in UK, we can see that in US, and in top universities like Harvard. It's the same story everywhere, and the takeaway is simple. If the assignment is static, it's an essay, AI will finish it in seconds. So there's an urgent need to pivot to assessments that AI generally can't replicate. Real skills, real portfolio proof, and real audience. When the only reader of a report is a marker, and Gen AI can produce a competent one in minutes, the rational move to take is a shortcut. And I actually applaud students for doing that shortcut because they're critically thinking and effectively using their time. But as students battle short attention spans, procrastination, and external pressures like from living costs to AI detecting anxieties, all of that shapes how a student shows up to a task. And we realized that this was more becoming a design problem rather than a discipline issue. So out of the many solutions possible, I want to walk you through three distinct models. Each one shifts thinking about where the student will think about, oh, how can I please my markers to get the most marks, to going towards how can this work in the real world. First is a simulation-based debate, which is already running in the SUST 1001 unit. The second is a live TED Talk kind of an assessment, which is going to be in front of real judges. And it's adapted from Work 3205. And the third is an embedded grant writing, which is yet to be implemented in SUST 101. So in Introduction to Sustainability, we had over 100 students, and the tutorial sizes were 18 to 23 students. And this particular task was a tutorial task. Instead of a conventional essay, we had students physically design a town and defend it. So the activity consisted of 5 rounds, and each round came up with a population growth, resource constraints, infrastructure trade-offs, and students had to defend their decisions for their town. This gave them a first-hand experience of the realities of city planning. If you build a building next to a dumpster, it's going to stay there. You can't change it on paper like you can't change it in real time. it has got real implications. And I think one student summed it up better than I ever could. The student says, "My best and most productive day of learning was the practical in which we mapped out a sustainable city." And that's the reaction that we actually want. Not a relief that, that assignment is over, but a pride in what they have built. So this brings me to the next model. It's been such a successful model, and it's adapted from work in organizational studies, which is being done in the business school. But I think it transfers beautifully to the most units in geosciences as well. So students deliver a 3-minute TED Talk to a live panel judged by real judges and industry professionals. And in semester 1 for this class, they had our dear Mark Scott, the president of University of Sydney, as one of the judges on the panel. Can you imagine the excitement of students that they're actually presenting something that they're really passionate about, that they learned in the course, to like a real audience, and someone as high and esteemed as Mark Scott? So why does this matter for geoscience specifically? Because a short, judged public speech is exactly the skill our students need, as actually also talked about by Anne, that whether they're pitching it to a council, a board, or a funder, you can't fake composure. You can't really maintain composure and real scrutiny. And no AI can replicate that. And I think it would be really nice to hear a testimony from a stellar student, Abigail, who's currently an honors student and has done 2 units with a similar assessment format.
Talk helps me the most with. The first one is that it's such an exceptional strategy for consolidating the learning materials that you've been exposed to throughout the semester. When you need to revise all of those concepts to come up with your own story, like what you want to tell with your time, you have to run through everything you've seen, and some things will come naturally to to the top of your mind. But I found it very helpful as a medium for revising what I had already learned and deciding what was the most valuable to me to discuss. So that was very helpful. I'd say another thing is that it's enormously helpful with confidence. Public speaking for a lot of people is something that can be quite confronting, or maybe it's just something people aren't very experienced with. And being able to do it in a safe place, like a loving community of staff and students who really want you to do well, is wonderful for, I'd say, cultivating a good faith consciousness that people care about what you have to say and want to support you. Which ties into the third point, I'd say, the community of practice has been one of the best parts throughout all the different 3MTs I've done over time. And that's from both perspectives, both feeling supported while you're speaking, but it's also so much fun to be in the audience. Everyone's speech, just by nature of a 3MT, is going to be unique. So it's great to think, oh, they gave this point and I hadn't thought about it that way. And you learn a lot from listening to your peers and a lot from giving feedback, because it creates that reflective loop, which you can apply to yourself and help others on their journey.
Awesome. Wasn't that music to use? That's amazing. Imagine each of our students come out as confident as that. In no time, we'll be making Elon Musks out of University of Sydney's. Probably not, but like even better, we don't want Elon Musk, but what I meant to say is students that have the ability to innovate and the confidence to execute. All right, now moving on to the grant writing assignment. Now this is where the real money opportunity comes in for students. So this idea came to us when in semester 1, we took students in week 12 and week 13. The sustainability students went on a tour across the campus, and we got to see initiatives done by the University of Sydney, like 3 different bins that you see. There's a water tank system, there's a biodigester, Chester around in the city, around in the vicinity. And when we were doing this tour, students also noticed gaps that were possible and could be improved on. For example, they used the app called iNaturalist to survey species on campus, insect species on campus, and to understand what it reveals about the local condition of that particular area. And based on that, we had some students suggest brilliant ideas to be implemented on campus. And so the most logical next step that I hope we can plan out is having students submit these ideas that they themselves have identified in their surrounding directly to UCIT's Student Life Grant. We're so fortunate to be in a university that actually provides those opportunities to students. We literally have a Student Life Grant that runs each semester that invites students to bring in these ideas, and they can get a funding of $5,000. That's amazing. And it gives a student a real shot at a tangible track record and an experience they can actually that goes well beyond their transcripts. And why this actually works, the literature confirms it, that authentic assessments drive critical thinking and engagement. And the students start deeply seeing relevance in what they study, what they're doing. And our SAST 1001 survey kind of complements this understanding. 80% of students agreed that the task challenged them to learn, and 80% also felt actively engaged. I think that's a great number, but we really want to improve it further. That being said, there's nothing, the strongest proof comes directly from our students. One of them said, I loved working on real life scenarios rather than standard theoretical essays, questions, and it gave me a real life confidence and credibility. That word credibility is the entire goal. Our students need to graduate with a portfolio of real world tasks ready to show employees what they actually can do, right? And my key takeaway that I would like to share would be building CV-worthy assessments gives students a real reason to engage rather than delegate it to AI, designing for real stakeholders and actual outcomes. And it can be starting small and scalable. Even if one assessment could be like this, that would be really a boost to student engagement in that unit. And when we give students real stakes, we stop managing disengagement and start building capable leaders. So thank you so much for listening. And I'm really happy to take any feedback and any other questions.
Okay, thank you, Prajawal. We have time for a question. I guess I could ask a question. So with the, I really like the idea of the student life grant. That's terrific, using that, something that's available at the uni. But I would think that AI would be pretty good at writing a student life grant.
I mean, that's actually not the problem. I mean, the thing is, we want students to critically go out in the environment and identify, okay, that's a problem. For example, the plastic users in the coffee shops. Now, if a student can use AI to kind of find a solution to that problem, that's more than enough. Our argument is not to stop people or students from using AI, rather better use AI to help them learn and solve better in their education. Well, that's something that I still need to plan out with Phil. But I think it will be assessed using the unit criteria. Have you used the sustainability understandings? Have you taken into consideration the context of the problem? Is it implementable? So whatever a grant writing, we all are very acquainted with grant writing. So probably those marking criteria would actually resonate with that.
All right, thank you. So please thank Prajawal again. Now we have a break in the program. It says 10 minutes, but we're going to take 5 minutes because we have run a little bit over time. So we'll come back at some, I don't know what the exact, I do. We'll come back at some, what's that, 10:33, 10:35. Okay, all right.